Sergio Perez had a pretty rough few races, and in my Silverstone review I said I'd do a video having a pure chat about Checo because I feel it's needed, and quite frankly I'm a bit tired of having to have a Checo conversation in race reviews, so let's do it in its own video. Checo currently sits second in the championship on 156 points, 99 points behind his teammate. This time his aim will be to finish P2 in the championship and give Red Bull that elusive 1-2 in the driver's standings that they've somehow never managed. Given the car he has underneath him and the team he has behind him, i.e. Red Bull, which they have their shit, they're pretty much the only top team that has all their shit together right now, should be a pretty easy task. And he did start things pretty strong this year, but the last 5 races have been a lot more difficult due to his qualifying being, well, shit. Yes, he made decent comebacks in those races he would do early in qualifying, apart from Monaco, which the less said about his race there the better, but still. Checo does have a pure bit of a history at Red Bull of not being as close to Verstappen in qualifying, but being closer in terms of pace in the races. He has his moments of being pretty close in qualifying or being ahead, but to be fair, I just think Checo is one of them drivers who's more of a race day driver than a qualifying driver, and there's nothing wrong with that. But having a poor qualifying like he's been having in recent races, as we've seen time and again, it can affect your race result, and the races where points get scored and points scored counts in terms of where you finished in the championship. He's also recently a couple times had a small problem of pushing too hard too soon, perhaps. Monaco comes to mind specifically, where he crashed in Q1, where he maybe could have gotten away with taking things a pretty bit easier and building up to it to make sure he got through to Q2 and then to Q3, you know, then you push. Spain as well, when he was off in the gravel at turn 5 towards the end of Q2 and then couldn't get a quick enough lap in to secure his spot in Q3. But when you have a car that can be through to Q3 every race like Red Bull have, then you could maybe get away with being a little, not leaving too much on the table obviously, but being a little bit more not completely on the knife edge, if you know what I mean, in Q1 and Q2, especially Q1, where you need to make sure you're not going out in the bottom 5, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Kane being Max Verstappen's teammate is not easy because he is one of them generational talents, and to be fair to Checo for a second, he has been the best teammate Max Verstappen has had since Daniel Ricciardo. But this season, as kind of mentioned before, he's slowly been slipping towards that underperforming bracket during this recent run of bad races he's had, or bad weekends. Perez will need to have a strong weekend in Hungary this weekend to try and come back, to get back on the podium, to try and get his bid for P2 back on track. He is still P2 by 19 points thanks to Aston Martin dropping the ball the last couple of weekends. Checo will need to try and get some strong front-running consistency back to try and keep himself from being under heavy threat from any of the drivers in rival teams that may fancy their chances. I would also mention, to help Red Bull in winning the Constructors, however right now Max Verstappen could be leading that on his own, so I will also say, and this might be a little bit rich for me to say again, this video is about talking about Checo's bad run of races, but I think Red Bull might want to watch what they say in regards to where they think Checo can come back to after a bad qualifying. Like when Max was starting doing P15 in Saudi, the comments were he could come back to P2 minimum. But last time out at Silverstone, say when Checo was starting P15, they were aiming for P7. In Barcelona, I'm pretty sure I heard Red Bull say that before the race, Checo could come back to the top 5 when he was starting P11, but while in Miami, when Max was in P9, it was, yeah, he can come back to P2 minimum, or win, or whatever it was. But yes, stuff like that gets said on the internet all the time. I mean, look at this video. But hearing that coming from your bosses, from your team, cannot be the most encouraging or motivating thing in the world. While we're on the topic of Red Bull management saying things, Nick de Vries. In all the posts about Daniel Ricciardo coming back, as of recording this on Friday the 14th of July, I have not seen one post from Red Bull or AlphaTauri or any upper people in F1 even acknowledging de Vries. The word is, the news was leaked sooner than it was planned to be announced, but even still, it takes like 12 minutes What, so to write a quick thank you Nick post or something along those lines, maybe a few extra minutes to make a photographic or something like that. And no matter who things were at the end between Nick and AlphaTauri and Red Bull, whether it was good or bad, there is this little thing that's called respect that still exists, and the fact that nothing about him specifically has been said, no thank you or all the best for whatever you're doing needs to been said, it's a bit disrespectful. So I'll do it in here. Nick, it is harsh to see you dropped after only 10 races, but I suppose that just shows how ruthless the world of motorsport can be, especially when Red Bull are involved. But I wish you all the best in whatever you're going to be doing next with your career. Now back to Checo. Realistically, will he be replaced at the end of the year? Well, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo is back in AlphaTauri. Will Buxton said on Twitter about this whole thing that it must be about putting some pressure on Checo and evaluating Ricciardo for a return to Red Bull in 2024 in terms of Ricciardo being at AlphaTauri, and I do agree. That's the only reason I can think of as to why Red Bull went for Ricciardo at AlphaTauri for the rest of the year, rather as to someone like Liam Lawson. Now, Red Bull have apparently made comments about Lawson that he is part of their future seat plans, and it's good that they do seemingly want to see him in Formula 1. And given they'll probably be losing Tsunoda sometime, given Honda will probably be keen to take him with them when they go, they'll need another young driver lined up. Lawson could be that driver. Apparently Marco also said that they didn't want to interrupt Lawson's season in Super Formula combined with the AlphaTauri bad car, but whatever. But back to Perez, I can see him being replaced at Red Bull by someone this year if the Mexican keeps underperforming from what he could be achieving, i.e. aiming for podiums, which given the car he has should be simple, but not getting them. Red Bull have said he's safe and they're throwing their support behind him, but we all know what Red Bull say and what Red Bull do can be two completely different things. Case in point, Pierre Gasly. Yes, I know Checo's won races and gone podiums and poles this year, which is more than Gasly managed in 2019, but my point remains. Despite Red Bull saying his seat is secure and they don't have a driver that could replace him, I am not so convinced. I think they do have options, they just don't want to admit it. Possibly Ricciardo if Daniel proves he's still got it and Red Bull feels he will be better alongside Verstappen again than Perez. Lando Norris could also be an option for Red Bull if they can pry him from McLaren early. They do seem to have been rather interested in him before, but all their prior attempts to get him so far, they have not been successful. I would say Charles Leclerc, but okay, number one, Ferrari fan, and I'm pretty convinced he's gonna re-sign there. And two, you would have to have some serious balls on you to put Charles Leclerc alongside Max Verstappen. I'm not saying they couldn't get on his teammates. I think they could, but I'm just saying you don't put two number one drivers in the same team. There could also be Alex Albon if they fancy giving him another go. Though given he's also being rumored with Ferrari, I don't know, but I'm gonna talk about Alex Albon the Ferrari on Thursday, so stay tuned. What do you think of Perez right now? What do you think the chances are of Ricciardo replacing Perez next year? Or if Ricciardo won't be the one to replace Perez, who'd you place your bets on? Would you say Lando Norris? Let me know your thoughts, do it in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.